looking forward to a day together of celebration, reflection, learning, and thinking about the future. I wasn't quite there at the beginning, but I've heard the story enough times that I feel like I was there. Last June, as we celebrated the precise natal day, we received the following missive from our founder, Peter. It was a day in early June 1989, he says, and if Leslie Pine says it was June 4th, who am I to disagree? Leslie's very precise. When TPI officially opened its doors for business, if you had asked the 5 people present what business TPI was in, I think the answers would have ranged from change the world, to revolutionize philanthropy, identify sources for sustainability, and consider intentionally her leadership role. This might not happen first year in philanthropy, but it should happen eventually for the effective and ambitious donor. If there's one lesson, big lesson, to be learned over the last 20 years in my mind, it's of course that the most effective giving is not about the money. Whether you think change happens at the individual, organization, community, or system level, the money is just one of the tools at your disposal. Capacity building, coalition forging, public awareness raising, public policy advocacy, and just plain strategic good thinking are a few of the other tools that can leverage dollars big time.
Looking at medicine, but when you and the structure and delivery of medical services and the quality of work behind it and how you get better, and he has a collection of essays called Better. And he says betterment is a perpetual labor, and it's quite undramatic. It's a fiendish attention to detail, and that those who fall on the upper end of the bell curve, what he calls the positive deviance.
The ability and the freedom to do that and enable what I call the everyday donors to participate in a larger vision. I think that's been a very positive change with the use of technology. And again, that shift that you talk about, the positive deviants who are really everyday heroes, the Muhammad Yunus, the David Eggers, all these different people who do, as Mother Teresa says, small things with great love.
He used to go like this, he'd wag his finger, he said, remember, social change is incremental at best. We're restless, we want things to happen too quickly. And I think people therefore walk away before they... So the other thing I think to us has been something of a failure is that there are a lot of fancy dancers, there are a lot of people who speak well, who articulate, who write well, and they tend to get the honey. We're drawn to them. And it's often underneath that, it's the rougher jewel, it's the person who isn't so articulate. And I don't think I have always viewed that as a sign of really smart grant making that goes with that person outside the box.
As I think about philanthropy more generally, the 2 failures that I see are very different. I'm talking now sort of in a broader sense. One of them is that many organizations define their goals in terms of process rather than outcome. And I think it's often because they're resource constrained or they just never really learned to do otherwise. And I think that is fundamentally a failure in the whole system, that we need to be focused on outcomes, even if they're relatively small, but they should be outcomes. The other failure, which I don't really think of as a failure, but I think we all have to recognize, these fundamental human problems are hard to solve.
That we talked about earlier in several of the discussions, which is the idea of understanding the systemic issue, not the specific issue that you're trying to address. If you focus on the specific, you may inadvertently foul up others along the way. So think big picture, think ecosystem of the particular area you're looking at.
If philanthropy failed, we could continue to do a lot of wonderful things, but if we really don't look at this gulf between rich and poor and the fact that for most working poor families in America, work literally doesn't pay unless you get up to a certain wage level, or if you look at the fact that you probably couldn't imagine when you started working on the reform of the justice system that 1 in 4 black men would spend time in jail in this country. we've got to really wake up and awaken other people and ask ourselves, what can philanthropy do about those things?
What we all do is write the poem. Every day we write the observant poem of life. You see, it isn't a matter of time, but compassion, call it community, or hope, or faith, or call it love, that is the flow. That is the poem.